So I'm gonna record this. It's basically me testing for a live stream for the Israeli meetup in a few days, and I kind of want to see how fast I can do it. So I'm gonna recreate this from scratch, sort of, and I might upload this. I'm not sure yet. So if you see this on YouTube, I apparently did. Anyways, I already created some meshes so that I can easily speed up the process. I made a simple pyramid, some heights, and then I created this out of it. I duplicated it, rotated it, deleted some faces, welded everything, and then I created this. I applied a turbo smooth on it, so it's a bit more smoothie. Actually, not a turbo smooth, a relax. Apologies. And widened it a little bit with FFD box and that kind of stuff, like this. Control points to move them about a little bit, like that. So I got a shape that I liked. And then I twisted it. So I'm gonna show the twist as well. Like that. Curved it a little bit with the bend, and that's basically it. So that's very simple. Then I made these lines. I'm gonna show you actually how I did that. So I'm gonna select this one, and I'm gonna select some edges like these. I'm gonna create a new shape from that with create shape from selection. And it's gonna be linear, and I just called it line or whatever. So line there. I'm gonna move that line away from it for a second. Oh, actually, let me just move away the mesh there, and now we have this line. And then in create a compound, you have loft, and now I can select a shape, and that shape's all the way over here, and that's basically this. So what I did, I created a simple plane. I duplicated it 3 times on 60 degrees angle, like this. I merged them to one mesh. I selected the center lines, and then again I did a create shape from selection and called this cross. That way I have this cross, the same as here. I'm doing this rather fast because else I'm going to be in a problem with time, and basically the 3ds Max stuff is not really the biggest thing because it's an Unreal 4 meetup, not a 3ds Max meetup, of course. So back to this line. I created a loft out of it. So let's do that again. Create compound loft. And then get the shape, and in this case the shape is this star. There we go. You can already see the basic line going on. You need to set some things. Some of them are quite important, like apply mapping, that way I don't have to unwrap it afterwards. And additionally, in the skin parameters, the shape steps should both be 0, that's fine. And adaptive path, etc., that should all be okay. Then I'm going to open the loft and grab the shape, which should be on either side. This time it's over here. And then I need to make sure that I rotate it properly 90 degrees. I'm going to grab the green channel and rotate it 90 degrees. One little bit more. Come on. There we go. Whew, that took a long time. And now we have this shape. As you can see here, I picked another line, and I did that 4 times for each of these lines that I made. I'm going to quickly show you the unwrap. Open UV editor, and as you can see, it's already nicely aligned here. So there's that. I'm going to delete it because I need to preview this again during the stream. So place it back a little bit. There we go. Now I have all these. And before I merge them, I applied vertex colors to them. So I'm going to show you that here. I'm going to select them all. And in the edit vertex colors, or actually better, maybe just select the whole thing and change the color of one of them to red only. So there we go. I made sure that the alpha is set to 0. So there. The reason didn't keep the color. So there we go again. Red. And then the next one, of course, I'm gonna pick that one. Oh, select all the vertices, set this color to green. Okay, and then make sure that the alpha is set to 0. Then the next one is blue. We also have the last one, which is actually going to be the alpha color. So all the colors should be black, value 0, and the alpha should be 100. Okay, that's that part. Then I merge them all together, like here. And if I select each one of them, you can see that this is the alpha color one. Color is black, alpha 100. This one is color red. This is probably green or blue. And this is the green one. And we're going to abuse that later on in Unreal Engine 4. All right. So, what else is there? Well, we can export this. So I already exported it into Unreal Engine, in my case. So I'm going to open the project. And let's do it again. I'm going to make a new folder real quick. Called Livestream 2. There we go. And I already prepared some textures. I could go over and how to draw them in Photoshop, but they're quite easily to understand. So I'm gonna just open them for you. I'm gonna just edit. And sadly I need to move them all to another screen because multiple monitors in Unreal Engine 4 can be a bit annoying. There we go. So it's just this corner texture, which I'm gonna explain later. This flash flares, a lens flare that I drew in Photoshop easily, and something I did with just simple vector stuff in spline stuff in Photoshop. And I all set them all to alpha compression setting, that way they are a bit more crisp. So if you lower the quality a bit, you still have quite some nice texture to work with. This is easily for mobile if you want to decrease file size. I made sure that the texture group is effects because all of these are going to be for effects, and because I saved this alpha, sRGB is already off. There's no need to do that. I did that for all these. Alright. So I'm going to go to Livestream 2 and I'm going to import, so make a new folder first called meshes, or actually static meshes. There we go. I'm going to import that mesh and then I need to go to work. Live stream, and there we have the mesh. I made sure that it's not a skeletal mesh. Auto generate collision is off, generate light map UVs is off, and import tangents and normals should be on. And that's about it. Anything else, import materials texture should be off. Import. There we go. Now for a little bit of optimization's sake, we can go and make sure that cause shadows and collision is off because we don't need those. Additionally, where is it? We don't need collision, so we can just set no collision. That helps a little bit in some cases. And additionally, it doesn't need any navigation data, so let's just remove it. Normally, this is just minor. I mean, it might not even make a few kilobytes of difference, but I tend to do it just for optimization's sake and OCD, I guess. Now, since I already have the textures, I'm not going to be bothering with those, but I'm actually going to copy them to this new folder called textures, of course. There we go, and I'm going to copy these into this folder. Copy here. So we're starting from scratch, and I'm also going to make a new folder called materials. There we go. Now first, let's make the material for the static mesh so we actually can see what's going on. So I'm going to make a new material, underscore, what did I call it again? I called roll bolt. I have no idea what to call it, so I just went with that. And go. And I'm also going to select that static mesh. We're just going to select it, and then in the material editor, you can see that mesh. Now let's grab one of the textures, and in this case I'm only needing this one. Here we go. Everything's a bit big because I want to make sure that everything's readable, but normally everything is a bit smaller for me, so I might zoom out a little bit more. Okay, first things first, let's set up the standard materials in the details. It's going to be a masked effect. The shading model is going to be unlit, and as you can see here that the base path shaders without light maps and the vertex shaders are quite low already, especially compared to, for instance, translucent, which has way more vertex stuff. And if I set it to default lit, you even have higher values, as you can see here. So unlit, masked, that works for me. I don't need, in this case I do need two-sided, so I'm going to enable that. But we don't need tangent space normals, and if you disabled it, it actually reduces a few instructions. Additionally, we don't need roughness, so if I enable this, it saves a number of instructions and occasionally one sampler. So now go all the way down to use light map directionality. If you disable this, you save an additional few instructions, especially in mobile, so that makes it a little bit cheaper. There we go. Now, actually, I'm going to do some cool stuff in customized UV, but first let's set up something that we can actually see. Generally, I just drag the red channel because we only need one of the colors because it's grayscale, the emissive color, so we can actually see what's going on. I'm going to make this screen a little bit bigger. There we go. And this is kind of what's going on now. But we want it to move, of course. And for that, I'm going to need a panner. I'm just going to show that real quick. Actually, even better, a debug time sign will work. I'm going to plug that into the UVs. Actually, not in the UVs. Into a... I have a small brain fart. Okay, did it. I need a texture coordinate node. I need to add these values to it. But only on the x-axis. The x is horizontal, y-axis is vertical in texture space, else it's z, of course. And so I need a scalar 0, I need an append. There we go, and I need this time sign on the x-axis and the 0 on the y-axis, and plug it in. And as you can see now, it's moving left and right. There we go. Alright, but as you can see, it's tiling, and that's quite annoying. So what you can do, and you basically should do always whenever possible, is change the sampler source to either wrap or clamp. In this case, we need clamp. So that's only... it clamps the last pixel on the edge, and in this case it's black, so something like this will happen. Additionally, setting it to shared improves the performance a little bit. It's more noticeable on AMD cards, that kind of stuff. Alright, so now we have this, but the coolest thing will be, of course, if every of those lines move slightly separately, so that not all of them are moving at the same time. And I'm going to use customized UVs for that, which is a little bit cheaper, only a few instructions in some cases, but especially on mobile and maybe even the switch, that might make all the difference. So I'm going to use that. And for that, we're going to use vertex colors. I'm going to get vertex colors, because if you remembered correctly, we have multiple vertex colors set on the mesh. So I'm going to just multiply that with the red channel so you can see what's going on. And as you can see, it only shows one of the lines. If I do the green one, it shows another line, blue one, and just for finalizing sake, also the alpha channel. There we go. But yeah, we need the custom UVs for that. So I'm gonna do that. I might actually be able to do it like this and then just move this over here. And okay, that's not working. Never mind then. Yeah. So let's set it up properly. I'm going to use the debug time sign for testing. And actually, not only that, we need the whole append part as well. So there we go. Let's see, we want it to move from left to right, so I'm going to add lerp for now. Lerp is basically, it blends the between two values. So if the A is 0 and the B is 1, the alpha will slowly move between those values depending on its value, where 0 is 0 and the alpha is 0 here, and 1 is the B from 1. If I am correct, it tends to be Okay, what else is there? We're now going to multiply that real quick with the red channel. There we go. I'll remove this real quick for visually sake, and then plug it into customized UVs. Now, obviously, you can just do it like this. And as you can see, something's going on, but it's not correct. And that's because we still need to append everything. As I said, it only needs to move horizontal, and at the moment it's moved horizontal and vertical. So I'm going to append that, plug it in here, and now you should be able to see something going on. So I need to disable that. Why are you not working? That's odd. Oh, wait. I need to do one more thing apparently. I need to add the texture coordinate node. I keep forgetting that. It's always something that I tend to forget. Go. And if everything's correct, now we should be able to see something. And we do. This on the other hand needs to be in the emissive color as well. And in the opacity mask. There we go. Now you can see this going on. But as you can see, all the other three are still static still. That's fine though. Now, first thing first, we kind of need to make sure that this line that's moving out is moving out correctly. So let's do some small testing. I'm gonna try like -1 to 1 and see if that works. It kind of does. So let's keep it at that for now. And let's do another channel. I'm gonna clean it up just a little bit. And there, move the pen a little bit up. Set it 0 over there. I like everything to be clean as possible. So there. I'm gonna do this rather quickly. I'm gonna copy paste those a few times already. There. And I'm gonna need some ads eventually as well. So place them down already. I'm gonna plug this into this alpha again, and in this case I'm gonna use the green vertex color channel. I'm gonna add those together, and as you can see now you have two lines moving. So like I said, we want a little bit of offset. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set this to -1.2, and let's say that the end should be about 1.4. And if you slow it down a bit, I can actually do that by using the speed value of the debug time sign to a lower value like this. And you can see that one of them is moving sooner than the other. Okay, now we need to do it a few more times. So I'm going to do it rather quickly. Multiply the green channel and multiply the alpha channel. Plug in the debug time sign for now. And add them all together. So let's move everything to the left a little bit. There we go. I'm gonna add those two together already. And then for the final add, there we go. And plug them in. And as you can see, all the lines are now moving. So we need a little bit of an offset, of course. So let's just play around with the values a little bit. This is going to be -1.6. Actually start with the top. Let's change this to 1.6. And it might be nice to actually see colors, but that should be fine. I'm used to it. Alright. Let's change this one to, this one is fine. And then we pick this one. Let's do -1.4. All the way up to 1.2, and this starts at -1.6 and the last one to 1. As you can see, every line is now moving a bit separately. I'm going to slow it down a little bit more so we can see it a bit better. 1 line, 2 line, 3 line, 4 lines. Here we go. The thing is though, as you can see, they are quite long and I want them to be shorter. So I'm going to use a very cool material function for that. I'm going to move this all a bit to the side. I'm not going to clean it up too much, else I'm going to be in time pressure. There's this cool node that I tend to use quite a bit, and that's called the Scale UVs by Center. There we have it, and I'm gonna plug it in after the add. There we go. And plug in the UVs there. Alright, now the texture scale we can easily change. We need to plop down a factor 2, hold down the 2 on the keyboard, left mouse click, and you get 1. And plug it in. For now I'm going to use a random value so you can see what's going on. And as you can see, there are very thin lines, though you only need to be shorter, not thinner. I'm going to change this back to 1, and there we have nice thick arrows. Alright, that's almost all there is to this effect, though we need to set up a little bit of color. I'm gonna add some small, cool, neat stuff to it. And for that I need a particle color, because we need to change the color in Cascade, of course. And I'm gonna multiply that with the texture, so that the gray effect in here just gives a little bit of additional detail. Combine it with the multiply, then get a U-shift, and the U-shift does something really cool. I'm kind of secretly in love with this. I'm gonna review it real quick. I'm gonna plug in the texture so you can see it going on, and let me grab the debug time sign real quick. There we go, and plug it in. It should change the color actually, but it's not doing it. Why not? Let's do this time then. Oh wait, there's no color. That's why. Let's just look at it like this then. As you can see, it shifts through all the colors, which is really cool. The reason why you didn't see it because when I plugged in the texture is because the texture is white. If I multiply that with a color first, like this, and then grab a color real quick from this menu here, you would actually see some color changing, as you can see. Alright, so that's that. And instead of time, I'm actually going to use a particle relative time node. Particle relative time. And this outputs a 0 to 1 value, depending on the lifetime of the particle. So if it's going from, if the particle life is 2 seconds, at birth it's 0, and after 2 seconds when the particle is dying, it's 1. I'm going to use that to control the additional U-shift for some nice rainbow effects. I'm going to plug that into the emissive color. So as you can see, while even it looks somewhat complicated, I mean, we have all seen worse probably, it's only 34 instructions on the base pass, 40 vertex shader instructions, and only 1 texture sampler, so that's great. Now though, I don't want to control this randomly with a debug time sign. I want to control this through Cascade. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to place down a dynamic parameter, and with this you can control some stuff in Cascade. You have 4 scalar values you can control, and in this case we only need 1, and that's the movement. I'm going to call it hori movement because I know it's horizontal movement. Plug that in here. Alright, so apologies, that's my first material. I'm going to save it. There we go. And let's get the content browser open and make sure that everything is safe. We don't want to lose anything, of course. Now we are going to make a particle system. There. Bar, what's it called? Roll bolt 01. And we have this view. I replaced the main geometry with a flat surface, which is much easier to see than the original one. So keep that in mind if this is different. I also moved some of the viewports around. That's because I liked this overview. And I don't always need the curve editor. Alright, so let's make this a static mesh by changing the type data to mesh data. And in this case, I need to select previously that static mesh. So there we go. And I need to overwrite the material. As you can see, this mesh is very big at the moment, and that's because the initial size always starts with 25 instead of 1. Now we need to change a few things. For instance, we don't need to spawn 20, but we only need to spawn 1. There we go. And additionally, we don't need any initial velocity, and we need to make sure that this is only spawned once. So we set the emitter loops to 1. That way there's only one spawned. Now we need that material we made, of course. So I'm going to go to materials, select it here, and then press this arrow so that it's applied. So as you can see, nothing is happening. That's because we don't have the dynamic material yet. So we're going to go to parameter and select dynamic. Right mouse click on it, refresh the module, and as you can see here, the horizontal movement is now available. And now we're going to change the parameter value from constant to a constant curve. That means that you can lure between the birth value and an end value. So the end value at birth is 0, and at the end when it's dying, it's 1. And additionally, we need to set the out value like this. So apologies, like this. Yeah. Now this can be annoying because you want the out value to start at 0 and the at birth, and the out value at the end to 1. So let's go to that material we just made. Here we go. Oh, wrong monitor. And let's just get a 1 minus. This inverts the values. So I'll plug it in here. Plug in the horizontal movement. Save it. And now in the dynamic node, I can actually start with 0 and at the death end with 1. There we have it. So that's the start. And as you can see, it's only one mesh, one draw call, and it actually has 4 different arrows. So at least 4 different moving arrows, and that's kind of nice. All right. What else is there? I need my content browser. Let me open it on another screen real quick. Okay, let's see if I missed anything. No, not really. I'm going to change the initial size to make it look a little bit longer and thicker. And this is better viewable if I have a floor, so I'm going to do it like that. So now it's a bit longer, which is quite nice. And I want to make it a bit thicker, so there we go. Now the movement is a bit more clear. It's moving nice and swirly. And alright, that's that. Now let's change the color over live. We can just set it to a constant and we can make it red or whatever. But I'm gonna select this one. Now for some reason the color is not changing. I'm gonna double check that here. Particle color should be that. I messed that up a little bit. Apologies. Back to the world. As you can see now, the color is changing. Though it's not that bright. Now you can change the brightness in the color of live, but I like to use a color scale. And look it under there, and also set it to a constant value of maybe 20 or so. I have no idea. So let's make it nice and bright for now. Alright, now we have a few more materials to go, and I only have like 15 minutes left, so let's go over them quite quickly. Let's go to livestream 2 folder. There we go, and make a new material. And in this case, let's make the flares, which is quite a simple material. So new material, VFX flares 01. And I also should have named this material to m_VFX so I can easily find it whenever I'm looking for it. With searches or filters. Okay. Let's open it. Everything keeps opening on the wrong monitor. It's so annoying. Anyways, let's do this quickly. And for that, let's also open the other material again. The roll bolt. Plug it in here. There we go. Because we can actually use this part again. We can use most of this. Let's just copy and paste that here. Open the content browser. Go to the textures. Select the flare streak. Place it here so we have that available. And additionally, what else do we need? We need to set this to a parameter because we're also going to use this one for the lens flare. I'm just going to call this texture for now. Call the sampler source shared clamp. And again, we need to make sure that this is Actually, in this case, it should be translucent, unlit, doesn't need two-sided, it doesn't need tangent maps, doesn't need, it needs fully rough, and kill the light map directionality. There we go. And that's almost everything we need. This can go into the opacity. We need to multiply that effect with the particle color, and besides particle relative time, I also want to create a new dynamic material, dynamic parameter, and call that color shift or color. There we go. And add these two together so that both the particle relative time and the color shift, not core shift, but color shift, affect the coloration over time. There we go. That result can go into the emissive color. We don't need a opacity, the alpha channel, so we can just keep that empty. Additionally, you could use this alpha channel as a color shift because in theory the particle color passes on the same factor 4 as the dynamic parameter, but that's for something else for another time. Could be used as a little bit of additional optimization, but that I need to have more time for that. Alright, so that's that. I'm gonna find this in the content browser. I'm gonna create a material instance out of it called material instance flares 02. I'm gonna double click on it real quick, move it to this screen again, replace the texture with the lens flare. There we go. So now we have those two already available. I'm gonna save it and I'm gonna add the first flares to the particle system. So for our whirl bolt, gonna add a new particle sprite emitter. And as you can see, we have these tiny things here. I'm gonna select the flares material, plug it into the required node. And as you can see, we have something going on, but not that much. So we need a dynamic node. Let's do that first. Refresh it so we have color shift, and then change the constant to a curve so we have some more control over that, and just do it like this. Now we also need a color. Now for that I'm gonna get a constant color, and let's pick that pink effect again that we used in the color overlap as well, which is slightly different for some reason. Okay, pick the wrong one. And we can just copy the scale color overlap with holding down Control and moving it to the other emitter. There. That way they are a bit brighter, as you can see. Now let's change the initial size to something bigger, like 100 to 140. Oh, there we go. And we don't need that many, and we don't need the initial velocity and that kind of stuff. So let's do it like this. Now we're gonna add some additional rotation. So initial rotation, so not all of them are the same. This already gives some nice glowy rainbow sparks. Let's add a little bit of a rotation with the rotation rate. Now we can change these values a little bit, like -0.2 to 0.2. That way there's some movement variation going on. Make this a little bit bigger. So we need this to loop only once. So emitter loop 1, and after that it dies. But for it to die a bit properly, we need to change the lifetime. And we need quite a short lifetime in this case. So 1.5 to 0.22. There we go. A bit long still because that's due to the spawn rate, which we're going to tweak now. And I want one of these to spawn every time one of these arrows moves away. And normally that takes quite some tweaking time and whatever, but I already have those values, so let's just go with that. I'm going to change it back to a constant, so this is instantly 0. And I need quite a few bursts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I didn't properly explain burst before, but I'm gonna shortly explain that. Alright, so every time it bursts, it shoots out a certain value of particles. In this case, if I do 1, you see one of them, of course. And the same, of course, for all of these. Now there are 4 spawn, but we don't want them all at the same time. Now I already kind of know that the first one is spawned at 15 seconds. and that the second one is about 0.75 after that, so 0.22, actually 0.225, and then the next one is 0.3, and the last one starts about 0.075 seconds later. So we get 375, apologies. There. Now obviously this looks still a bit odd. So let's change the size over life. Size by life. Let's do something really fun with that. The easy way for me to think about how they're moving is think about the birth, if it's growing bigger or smaller, and then just go accordingly. So I want it to be small, then I want it to be quite big. Afterwards I want it to be the regular size, and then I want it to die out, so invisible. So at about 10% in of the lifetime I want it to be quite big. Then about 30% into its lifetime it should be the regular size. There we go, and at the end it should just fade out, and now we get something like this. Vroom, vroom, vroom. And that's already quite good. Now what I can do is duplicate this, right mouse click emitter, duplicate emitter, and change it to that location and I'll set it all off. But that means that an additional draw call, because each of these horizontal emitters is basically a draw call. In some cases that's different, but generally speaking one of these is one draw call. And having two of these is another draw call. So let's do something different. I'm going to add something to the initial location. And let me get initial location. There we go. And if I'm correctly, about 0.4 seconds in, it will hit over here. What I'm going to do is change the vector curve constant. There we go. And do something interesting with that. So the first 0.399 seconds, it should be at the 0 location. But afterwards, 40% into its lifetime, it should go to about, if I'm correct, 900. We won't see it then at the moment because I still need to add some bursts. And that should be 2 more, I think, and 1 more. So let's double check that real quick. Yeah, okay. So we need to spawn 1 of each, of course. And additionally, we need to know the first time. And that first moment is 0.55, if I'm correctly. As you can see, it comes quite close. So then we have the next one, which is 0.075 later. So then we are at 0.625. And now we have 2 of them. The next one is at 0.7. And then the last one is at 0.775, if I'm correct. Now we have something like this. And now it's spawning on 2 locations for 1 draw call, which is quite cool. I'm gonna call this sparks or whatever. Let's save everything. Now we kind of need the same thing before another effect. For the flares. So the lens flares, I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to change this material to material instance flares. I'm actually going to select it in the content browser real quick and find it here. Alright. And if I single this out, you can see that's going on, but it's quite smallish. And I want to change the initial size of that. So let's do something like 250 by 250, and as you can see, it's kind of squarish still, and that isn't really a nice look. So I'm going to go to required and set this to PSA rectangle. This way the particle doesn't need to be square. It can be a rectangle as well, so I can make the horizontal line longer than the vertical line. So let's go to initial size again and change that a little bit. Let's make the Y, the vertical line, smaller to about 140 or so. 180 should be good as well. And now we have this effect. And now we have something like this. I could have combined it, but in my own opinion, this works as well. And I'm saving a draw call anyway, and 2 of them, because I'm not making 2 separate emitters for the different locations. I have something like this. So now let's make the lightning that's going to be around it. And I can do that quite quick as well, though that material is a little bit more complicated. I'm going to save everything again. Make a new material. VFX bolt 01 or so, I have no idea. Open it in the right window. And let's set it up properly. Now, if you remember, we had this weird corner mask thing and this lightning texture. So when you have them together and you multiply it, the black part is 0, the white part is 1, and multiplying anything by 0 makes it invisible. And in that case, the result is only a small part of that lightning effect is available. And that's kind of what we want to do. This is already properly set up, and again, we need to set this up to masked, unlit, disable tangent space normals, enable fully rough, and scroll down a little bit until we can disable light map directionality. I'll plug that into the opacity mask. And I need to find all my other materials, which are here. And in this case, we can just copy this part. Actually, the flash part might be better to copy. There we go. I'm gonna just copy these with Ctrl+C, of course, and Ctrl+V over here. Put the particle color into the texture and emissive color. That's the only thing we need to do for the color setup. So we already have that available now. That speeds up quite a bit. Now we want both of them to rotate. There's only one problem, and I'm going to show that real quick. Rotator, plug it in here and preview it real quick. Obviously, I need to set both to shared clamp again. As you can see on the edges here, the texture is slightly too big. So I want to use that scale UVs from center again. There we go. Plug it in the UVs and just make it slightly smaller. So 0.9 should be fine. Yes, that works properly. And let's preview this. Right mouse click, start previewing. And we have this part of the texture. Now we want to have a little bit more control over everything. So I'm going to copy this rotator again. Plug it in here. The speed can be whatever you want. 0.33 or whatever is fine. So we're going to change that in a bit. I want to use this dynamic parameter for something else as well. I want to use it for a rotator that rotates the top one, and additionally I also want to affect the rotation speed depending on for every spawn. So rotator speed, there we go. I'm gonna just copy and paste it here so it's cleaner to look at. And additionally we need a time, so that's constantly moving. I'm going to multiply the rotation speed with the time. Here we go. And I'm actually going to add the rotator. This way, every time this value in the rotator changes, the time is already at a different location. For instance, 1 hour, 2 hour, instead of just always the same second. This will give some nice additional randomness to it. And the final result in here, you can't really see because everything should be, let's see, rotator coordination. Why is it not working? Check clamp, rotator's fine, time's fine. Oh, it shouldn't be in coordination, it should be in time. Ah, there we go. Sorry about that. Something easy to mess up. Alright, so I'm going to preview that here, and there you have it. Now I want to make this lightning a little bit more wobbly. So let's do that real quick. I'm going to create some noise for it. I'm going to grab a texture, and I'm going to use a normal noise texture. I like to use normal maps for noise. Oh. noise normal, and I like to use one of my favorite ones, that's 81 if I'm correct. Yes. Oh my god, by now I know about 100 different normal maps out of my head from memory. So I'm gonna rotate that one quite fast, and I'm gonna show you real quick what it does. I'm actually gonna duplicate this material real quick so you can actually see. I'm gonna preview it, and I'm gonna only need 2 channels because U and V are 2 channels. So whenever I preview a texture coordinate node, you can see it's 2 channels, the red and the green, and combined is yellow. So I'm gonna append the normal map's red and green channel, and that result will be this. And if I plug that into this texture will look all nice and wobbly and effecty. That's basically UV distortion. Now I don't want it to be this strong, of course. So what I can do is actually multiply this value by a low amount, let's say 0.055 or whatever, and then multiplying that with a UV map, else you get something like this. But now if you multiply that actually with actually add it to a texture coordinate node. There we go. You get this. And it looks kind of the same until I add a rotator to it. So let's add a rotator to it. As you can see, it's slowly moving. I'm gonna actually speed up that value quite a bit. And now it's a bit jiggly wiggly, as you can see. I have no idea what to call it, so I always do whirly whirly, squirly whirly, jiggly wiggly, that kind of stuff. I'm gonna delete this again and plug that into the rotator. And now the result of this lightning bolt is all wiggly wiggly. Okay, wiggly wiggly, jiggly wiggly, jiggly puff, oh my god. Okay, so that's basically it for this texture. Now we have a nice lightning bolt effect. I'm gonna save that, and I'm gonna go back to my particle. Again, I can duplicate this effect, so right mouse click emitter, duplicate effect, and get that bolt texture going. So I'm gonna go required, there we go. It takes a few seconds to load, but of course it looks a bit odd at the moment because it's spawning in the same kind of way that the others one are doing, and we don't want that. So we're gonna change a few things. The lifetime should be, that's actually fine. We can change the initial size already. It doesn't need to be this big. So let's do something like 150 and maybe 200. There we go. But it's still a bit, yeah, aggressive. So let's change the size by live thing. And in that case, let's make it small-ish, normal size, quite big. And we're actually going to do that about 50%. The half of the lifetime, it should be about the normal size. At the beginning, when it's birthing, it should be about half its size. And at the end of its lifetime, it should be slightly bigger still. There we go. And that's already helping a little bit, but yeah. Let's see what else can we change. The colors are fine. Initial rotation rate we can disable. And initial rotation should actually do its work, but it's not really doing much at the moment. That's weird. Might be because it's PSA rectangle? No. Wait, camera facing position should help, but it's still not rotating. What the hell? I'm wondering why it's doing that. It should not be doing that. The spawn rate is fine. I can tell that I only tried this one time before. Apologies for that. 2, 1. I'm gonna randomly spawn a few more. I need to do this a few more times. So 1, 1. There. For some reason the rotation is not working. So I'm gonna kill it real quick. And apply new rotation. It's like the size by life actually. Wait. That's weird. Did I change the different size by life? No. I accidentally changed the initial location. That kind of makes sense. I'm gonna recopy the initial location. That's why I'm attempting this a few times before I actually do a live stream for a lot of people, so I don't mess this up. Alright, so we need to set this size by life again. Small, normal, bigger. The birth out of 5 out of 5 out of 5. About halfway in, 50%, it should be normal size, and at the end of its lifetime it should be slightly bigger. Not that big though, 1.5 is not enough. Okay, now it works. A small boo-boo on my part. And yeah, well, this is kind of all the time I've had. I'm already 5 minutes over the allotted time. But since I need to practice the last part as well, I'm gonna add that in anyway. So I'm gonna call this lightning, because it's lightning, of course. And we need, actually this looks fine already. I mean, we can add sparks to it, but do we want to add sparks? Well, for the people who want to see how I set up a spark, that's fine, I guess. I'm gonna make one more material and save everything. Material VFX sparks 01. Here we go. And this keeps opening in the wrong. Yeah. So let's plug this in here. And let's copy this part to change the color. There we go. And by now you should know that I'm gonna set this to masked, unlit, no tangent space normals, fully rough, and disable light map directionality. There we go. So because I'm using a GPU particle, and GPU particles don't have the dynamic parameter available, I'm actually gonna change this a little bit, and not only gonna use the particle relative time, but something that's only usable for GPU particles, and it's called particle random. This outputs a random 0 to 1 value for each pawn. So now every time it's emitting, it's getting an additional value. So it might start at 0.5 and then additionally get the particle relative time. And that's almost already it, though we kind of need this to be a circle, of course. So let's get a sphere gradient 2D, which should be fine for what we need. And just plug this into the opacity mask and we are done. Okay, back to the particle, create a new particle system. The type data in this case is GPU particles. And if I change the color to the same as all the others, you should see the colors changing and being random. That's good. Let's also get the scale color by copying it again. Now it's nice and bright. What else do we need? We need to set this to PSA velocity so that they move along with the velocity. We can get a sphere going, location sphere. And I normally need to tell this myself out loud because I keep forgetting where the sphere is. And apologies, my brain is dying. It's getting somewhat late and I've been working all day. Okay. So let's show the actual sphere. There we go. And I only want to make them move to the left side. So we can already kill the right side by the negative X. So it's only moving on the left side. There we go. Let's add some velocity to them. So it's moving quite fast to the left side. And let's do some nice values in here as well. Let's do 400, minus 200, minus 100. And as you can see, it's moving quite nice. Now the size is quite big, so I'm gonna go with probably, let's say 3 to 6. And now they are quite small. Maybe they should be a little bit bigger. Nah, well, we'll see. Need to change some sizes anyway. So let's change the lifetime from 0.44 to 0.88. I like to, for some reason, do those kind of values. And I'm gonna kill the spawn rate. And again, I'm gonna do burst stuff. But since we already have all these burst things here, why not just copy them? So I'm gonna hold down Control, and even though it has a red cross, if I place it down, it actually has these values. But I only need the first 4. So I'm gonna delete the latter 4. There. And now it spawns each time it emits. Though, as you can see, it's only spawning a few of them. And I kind of want to spawn quite a lot. So anywhere between 50 and 25. I can actually copy this and paste this real quick. And same with the count low. Copy, paste, paste, paste. And now it looks like this. Though it's still a bit chaotic. So let's add some links. Let's add a drag, acceleration drag. It slows down over time, as you can see. And let's add some additional acceleration, constant acceleration that slowly pulls them down. The regular gravity in Unreal is -980. And as you can see, it's moving them down quite a bit now. And let's add some additional velocity to the left, so 400 or so. Now, this looks quite boring still. Might actually add some additional velocity upwards. There we go. That looks a bit better. And let's get a size by speed going. Now we're only going to change the values on the y-axis, so the speed scale should be probably well, let's do a half a value and then change this to about 10. And as you can see, they're quite long now, which looks okay, but they shouldn't be that long all the time. So let's get a size by life. All right, and in this case, we need 3 values. I'm going to delete them all. Birth, which is going to be quite small, actually invisible. And just when they spawn, they are a bit bigger. And at the end of the lifetime, they should be normal size. Actually, let's start the normal size earlier and then end with invisible. So I want them to be quite long on the y-axis before they are already born. Not visible, but it does become visible when you have some additional life going on. Let's say that they are 3, 4, 4. I'm just gonna add some random values. 0.15 and then just a regular size. And at the end of the lifetime, 1. Now you get something more like this. Let's change the sphere size a little bit to match the size more of that effect, and make sure that the emitter is looping. There. Okay, let's change something in the sphere as well. Let's add some velocity to it. And let's do somewhere between 5 and 10. And now we have a bit more random effect. There we go. Let's remove the 3D draw mode. 3D draw mode. And see what's going on. Though I don't think this value is still, it's not moving fast enough still. I'm actually gonna increase this value to maybe about 20 and 40. There we go. And additionally, maybe get the initial velocity a bit higher. There we go. That makes more sense. Though I wanna make them live a little bit shorter now. So 0.22 to 0.55 maybe. There we go. That looks okay. Now the problem with this is, especially because we're using a sphere with a negative x, we cannot really flip this over time. So in this case, I actually do need to duplicate it. Get the initial location of 900 and just invert some values. So the sphere should be disabled, should disable positive x and enable negative x, and change the velocities to the opposite value. Oh. And I also need to set some delays up. And because we already have those set up in here, 0.55 and 0.625, 0.775. You can easily copy those, of course. So I'm gonna do that real quick. There we go. Oh, apologies. There I need to click on something. 0.55, 0.625, 0.7, and 0.775. There we go. Do-do-doom, do-do-doom. I need to set the bound real quick, so let's do something. 1,000, 1,000, 1,000. And this is with the floor. I'm gonna move them a little bit to, let's say, 400 to the left and minus 100. And now we have this. And that took me about an hour. So yeah, that's actually with explaining. I mean, I'm faster if I don't need to explain, of course. So this is kind of the same effect that I made before. I'm not sure if I'm gonna release it. I probably will. And in that case, I will add the textures and the mesh, of course. So I'll keep that in mind. And yeah, I need to consider if I'm gonna upload this. I might be uploading this after the Israeli meetup. And I'm either considering to upload both the meetup at Israel Unreal Engine 4 meetup and this one, because this one might be a bit more clear, but the other one might have some additional questions from the public, so I'm not sure yet. But this was a good test. I'm 15 minutes too slow, though I'm showing quite a lot of things, so I need to consider not showing the GPU particles. In that case, this video might be nice. And just to show you the difference between that one and the one I made before, I'm gonna add some darkest sky color. This is the one that we made now, and this is the one I made before. And it's almost the same. The GPU sparks in this one are maybe a bit different. Yeah, that's it. All right, hope you learned something from it, and take care. Luos out.